Maybe it shouldn't have, but the confidence farmers and ranchers showed in DTN's latest survey surprised us. They felt better about the 2012 season after harvest than they did before planting. As Greg Horstmeier explained when we talked Tuesday, it probably had something to do with the high levels of income growers would record. The DTN survey of 500 producers across the country showed crop growers were more positive than livestock producers, yet those in the livestock industry still felt better in November than they did before harvest. They are, however, understandably pessimistic about next year's outlook. We started by asking Greg if he was surprised about how positive producers were overall.
In a basic sense, yeah, positive if you think about the drought that we had in 2012. Though when you really think a second about it, not so surprised in that while we did have a horrible drought, record drought in 2012, because of the crop prices, because of the prices that farmers got for the crops that they did raise, and because in the case of crop farmers, crop insurance, which most of them had this year, we really saw record farm incomes for this last year. So these numbers were gathered in late November, early December of 2012, a lot of uncertainty going on at that time, but farmers by then knew what their crop was, they knew what their income was, and they were saying, this really isn't too bad.
Let's talk about some of the logistics of the survey. What type of questions, how many producers did you sample, those kinds of things?
Right. Well, there are two sets of surveys. One go out to farmers. We survey 500 farmers, and we make sure that we have 500. That's a constant through all of the years of the survey. And then there's a separate similar question set that are asked of agribusinesses, and that's asked of at least 100 agribusinesses 3 times a year. We're reporting both those numbers now. The questions we ask basically are fairly simple in terms of, are things better, the same, or worse than what you expected them to be? And so we ask them about their present situation. Do you feel good, bad, or indifferent about
just for the time being?
Right, for the time being, right. So in this case, in late November, early December, how do you feel about your situation? And then we ask them about the future. Do you expect that to be better, worse, or the same as what you are right now? In the case of agribusinesses, we ask similar questions. How is your business? What's your income now? What do you expect it to be in the future? And do you expect it to be better, worse, or the same, as it is in the future? There's many questions, but they basically boil down to those three answers: better, worse, or indifferent, or the same. And then the indexes are based on the calculation of those answers.
As they look forward, livestock producers, crop producers, what are their concerns and what do they feel good about?
Well, I think in their future expectation numbers for this time are more pessimistic than their present situation. That's something we've found that it's a bit of a common occurrence in these surveys, that frankly, the last 3 years that we've been doing this have been good years for agriculture. And what we see as farmers look down the road is, what we sort of take it to mean is that they're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. Will the good days end? Even in the case of drought, will it be worse than what we had last year? So as we talk to the farmers that we surveyed and to other farmers, the things that we see common denominators are the continued drought in the case of both crop and livestock producers. Our DTN meteorologists are saying that for the time being, we're still not getting the moisture that we would need to replenish ground moisture supplies going into 2013, and we think farmers reflect that. I don't know what things are going to be like at planting. If I'm a livestock producer and I'm already behind in soil moisture, I know what my forages and my grazing areas were like last year. I'm worried about what those things are going to be like coming up.
I'm curious as to what the perception is as to how this relates to the overall economy, or if it does at all. And I'll mention again, this was in November, December. The fiscal cliff was in play. The farm bill was in play.
Exactly.
But does that at all play into how you think people are responding, or agribusinesses are responding?
Well, I think in both cases, I think there was some. If you look at the fact that the future expectation numbers are lower than my current situation numbers, I think we'd have to say that the economy plays some part of that. But to be honest, the economy in agriculture, the farm bill debate notwithstanding, but the general economy in agriculture has been fairly good the last couple of years. It's been better than the average economy. Farmers know the incomes that they have for this past crop year, so they were feeling good about that. I think there's some concern there, but I would sense that the greater concern in agriculture, both farmers and in agribusinesses, basically come down to what it always comes down to, which is weather. What's next year's crop going to be like?
When do you take the survey again, and how important do you expect that'll be?
That one will be an interesting one. We do these 3 times a year, right before planting, so in March-ish time frame. We do them in August, right ahead of harvest, and then we do the year-end one that we're talking about here today. The next one will be in March, right ahead of planting. Quite frankly, that's one that I'm really interested in seeing how that turns out, because we will know a little bit more about where we're at in terms of moisture. The livestock sector will be responding to where they think things are going to shape up in terms of forage production and some of those kind of things. So yeah, there's a lot weighing on that one.